disqualification of Mr. Tinubu. They're talking about his certificates. They're saying he refused to submit his primary and secondary school certificates, and also the University of Chicago certificate he tendered. They say there are conflicts around that as well. Labor are talking about the case he faced in America that led to his allegedly paying a $400,000 fine, and they're both talking about corrupt practices during the election. In effect, they say your candidate was not qualified to run at the time of the election.
We're going back to situations and banters. I call them banters that are being properly taken care of months back, prior to the elections. And what I'm saying here to you, live and direct, is let the law courts take its due course. Another thing I can say to you here is the PDP, the Labour Party, etc., they are not INEC. They do not determine what INEC is going to do. They do not determine who is qualified or who is not qualified. So whatever allegations you are throwing out there, it is not in your position to talk about them. Why don't you ask INEC? Why? And INEC is satisfied with all the bits, the parameters you've laid across. INEC is satisfied as is. I am repeating myself here. Weeks back, months back, prior to the elections, all these things have been tabled. Our PCC, Presidential Campaign Council, vis-a-vis the Public Affairs Department, we've been here. A son in the person of Festus Keyamo has been here to debunk all these things you were saying, and then I believe coming down to sit down and then saying, oh, well, let's go back into that. We're wasting our viewers' time. We're not trying to educate them enough about ways of moving forward, not backwards.
Well, obviously, we have to examine the grounds on which they are putting forward their legal challenge. We're not trying to get you to delve into the merits of the case, because it is obviously...
That is not my purview.
It is obviously in court. We just wanted your reaction to some of those points. And clearly, I mean, if you look at the legal history in Nigeria and with elections and so on, many things that INEC has agreed to and allowed to go through have been overturned by the courts. So
let's wait for that.
The fact that INEC agreed to it or sanctioned it doesn't mean that it's going to pass the muster when it comes to the courts. And that there's one other issue I would like, if possible, that you could react to, because they're also aiming to establish that the Constitution says you must win 25% in the FCT. These are all contained in their legal challenge, because Mr. Tinubu didn't win the FCT. They're saying that on that basis, he should not be declared the winner.
I will make it short and direct to you. Don't let us preempt the courts. Let the courts do its work, and then we all wait for the results. You're trying to say you want to hear my own reactions. Most of all this, like I'm repeating myself like a bad tape, most of all these parameters have been tidied up before. These issues have been raised before. All the parties concerned, vis-a-vis their public affairs department, their media and publicity departments, they've been able to come up with this. There have been banters here and there, A against B, B against C. All this have been put on the table. The average Nigerian, our viewers back at home, they've been able to listen to this and they've been able to form their own personal opinions. Now the time is right for the courts to decide on that. You were telling me earlier that in most cases, it's not everything that goes to the court that plays along the lines of, like you were saying, maybe the president-elect. Let's wait for that. Don't let us jump the gun here. We are not judges. We are not the saints. We are not the prosecutor or the defendants here.
Well, so obviously, that's why we said we're not looking at the merits of the case.
That's right.
But would the APC, your candidate, the president-elect Bola Tinubu, be prepared to live with the agony of defeat if the courts find against his victory?
He is a man that then says, that responds to his word. He said it earlier, loud and clear, that whatever comes out of the courts, it's going to be okay by him. And that is what I want the average Nigerian, the viewers out there, that is what I want you to believe.
Right.
Let us wait on the courts. Whatever the courts are coming out with is going to be okay by him. Little wonder, he was saying one thing that you said earlier in your speech, that he is saying, let all parties concerned come together and let's have a kind of a government of national unity. Let's bury the hatchet.
I don't
No,
think
no,
you said-
the element of saber rattling, we are going to court.
Yeah,
You have a right to that.
Just quickly,
Go ahead.
sorry to interrupt you. He didn't say government of national unity.
Okay.
Right.
A government that is all encompassing. Let us all come together in the name of Nigeria, because he is not Nigeria alone. We are all in it together. Just you, Charles, and Bola, we are Nigerians. We are interested in what is happening in Nigeria.
Absolutely.
So we must be part of it. They are part of it too. Let me run you an analogy that one of my kids used to say when we were young, when he was younger.
Sure.
He said, like when Nigeria were playing a football match, and he says, Dad, let's pray. I said, pray for what? So that Nigeria will win. And I keep telling him, you relax. You know one thing about God? God is busy enjoying the football match because both of his kids are playing. And what God says in his mind is, may the better team of my kids win.
Absolutely.
I am calling this, what we have on ground now is politics, and politics is bound to be dynamic. The dynamism in politics is what we are seeing. The courts in this wise are going to put in, maybe add butter to the bread and say, okay, this is our final take. And until that happens, let us wait for the final take. Because Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, honestly, is ready to take Nigeria to greater heights. And that is what I want you, our viewers back at home, to believe loud and clear.
Okay, well, let's turn to what you mentioned briefly earlier, which is Mr. Tinubu's statement condemning physical and verbal assaults during the governorship election and calling for unity and for the process of healing to begin. On the face of it, sounding very presidential.
That's what it is.
I'm wondering what the political calculations are and the political context behind the statement and what the sentiments are that are riding on it, because he only expressed concern about the governorship and state assembly elections, not the presidential election. If you look at the statement, it's quite clear.
For all he cares, what we're talking about now is what is current. He's talking about a current topical issue.
Well, obviously, the presidential election is current and topical.
Current and topical.
We're emerging from election
season. As far as we're concerned,
Yeah.
barring the fact that court cases are being on ground as we speak, he's looking at it that Nigeria, he is the president-elect, he has a job on hand, he has a job to do. And then the second elections, the second round of elections, which is Guba and the states, houses of assembly, is the next thing on hand. And that statement he made applies to all the elections on ground, that it's high time we come together. It is high time we come together because we're all in this together. Somebody has to win. The case we have on hand now